Hi everybody and welcome back. My name's Alison, the online piano and the online violin tutor. Today I'm going to be reviewing this violin, which is the Cecilio CVNAE, which is the Cecilio CVN Acoustic Electric Violin. This is based on the CVN330, that model, and it's just basically an acoustic violin and an electric violin all at the same time. And you can tell because you've got a 1/4" jack plug in there, you've got a pickup bridge underneath the bridge there, and you've got some tone control and everything on the side here. So I'm going to play something just acoustically on the violin, then I'll probably play the same thing plugged into an amp, which I've got down here. I apologise if the sound is not so great because the amp is sitting right down on the floor underneath my desk there, but you'll get the idea. Then I'll take you through some pros and cons and the summary. Okay, so I have to be perfectly honest with you. This is the first time ever in my whole life I've actually played on an electric acoustic violin. And I have to be honest again, I've never really been a fan of electric acoustic violins, simply because I just think that they're sort of acoustic violins that already have a pickup inside them, but you can buy really nice little neat pickups to put on your own violin. So for example, for me, a professional violinist, I've got my own violin just sitting over there on the side. You guys know that it's an expensive little violin that I've got sitting there. So in order to amplify that sound, I have to put a microphone on it. So I have one that kind of hooks under, that sits on here and hooks over, which is what I use for recording to get the ambient sound coming out. I have one that can sit underneath the fingerboard or the tailpiece. You can get ones that sit under the side. You can get something that goes underneath the bridge. So I've just always found these are probably fine if you just want something, if you just want the best of both worlds without buying kind of a cheap microphone sort of thing. But if you've got your own violin and you want the same flavour just amplified, then you can just buy an amp to go with that. I almost just see them a little bit pointless to buy. However, having said that, this is not a bad violin actually. It's based on the CVN330, which, as you guys know, I like that violin. It's a really nice one in the range. So to have picked that to model this on, I think that was a good idea. And if you want to amplify it, honestly, all you've got to do is just stick the cable in there, stick your amp on, and off you go. You've got a nice clean sound because you haven't got to put anything on it. It's just all sitting under the bridge. So take it out and you're acoustic, put it in and you're kind of electric, so to speak. But when the sound is amplified, you can hear that you're not actually losing any of the sound. It was just the acoustic sound, but just a bit bigger and with some reverb on. I always have on my amp down there anyway. I mean, you could take the reverb off if you wanted to, but I just have it on. So yeah, I think that this is a nice violin. It doesn't suit me personally. I can't see the point for me, but for someone that just wants a hybrid, you know, someone that just, I don't know, it just sort of depends if it suits your needs, whether you want one. If you're looking to buy an acoustic violin because you're looking for a particular tone, or you want something that does this, something that does that, you won't be able to pick and choose so much with an electric acoustic violin. You kind of get what you're given with these because they're kind of a hybrid, so you can't really have your cake and eat it. If I want to amplify my acoustic violin, like I said, I have to put a microphone on it, which is absolutely fine, or some kind of amplifier, or whatever I like. But with something like this, you are just getting a bog standard violin that you don't really have any choice over. You have to pick it because it's, I don't know. I like the violin for what it is, but I almost think, if you had your violin, you could buy a cheap pickup just to put on it, and you'd have the violin that you liked, and it would be amplified just exactly in the same way. This doesn't really sound any different amplified than than if I'd put an external microphone on it. But I don't know, I mean, if you just want a bit of fun. So the pros, yeah, it's all solid maple. You've got a lot of, you've got hand inlaid perfing, you've got ebony fingerboard and ebony tailpiece, ebony pegs with mother of pearl inlay on here. And on the tailpiece as well, you've got 4 nickel plated fine tuners, which are really nice. The strings, they're just the factory standard strings you've got on here. It looks really nice. It looks like it's a 2-piece flamed maple back, maple sides as well. You've got your 1/4-inch jack on the right hand side, so that's opposite to the chin rest. And on the other side here, you've got a nice volume control there, and you've got passive tone control. When I was trying that just a second ago, I didn't record it. It didn't actually sound any different for me, so I probably wouldn't use that. So they're the cons. So it is quite a nice idea. Despite I'm not so keen on the concept, it is quite a nice violin for what it is, and it's about $135, $140, something like that to buy. So the cons that go with this, it's kind of a shame that this was on the right hand side. I'd always prefer it on the left hand side, because then when you're playing to the audience, you can now see this big fat wire that's sitting in front of me, and I've got nowhere to put it. I could have used an elbow cable here, so it would have fallen down, but still, it's in front of me. I prefer them the other side, so they can hang over your shoulder and the audience doesn't see it so much. But I mean, that's not the be all and end all. That's just a con for me. The strings, I would change the strings. If it was me, I'd just buy something a bit better. I'd buy maybe D'Addario Prelude strings, or I'd buy Parastro Tonicas, or if I was feeling really flush and really fancy, I'd buy some Dominants. That would be really nice to put on here. I always find you have to work a little bit harder when instruments are amplified and when you've got kind of electric type violins. It's just, there's just so much more that you're fighting with, so you're always having to work a little bit harder. So if the strings are very poor quality, then you're having to work really hard with the strings. So you don't want to be working hard to fight against the sound and fight against the strings at the same time. So you don't have to change the strings. Personally, excuse me, I would just change the strings. This being on the left hand side, I'm not so sure, because I couldn't really easily change it because it's sort of in an odd position. If it was here, I know the audience would see it, but I mean, the audience can see this anyway. I'd at least be able to sort of hold the violin with my chin and sort of, be able to move the buttons or use it with my bow hand. But with it sort of being over there, it's a little bit harder for me to get to. Even if it was underneath, you could just sort of, pop the violin under your chin, move it, and then sort of carry on again. But with it sort of being there, it's a little bit, I find it just a little bit more cumbersome, a little bit more awkward to kind of get to the violin there. So yeah, so those are the kind of cons with it. So the type of person I think this would be suitable for is someone who is a beginner, somebody basically who might have a use for something like this. I don't necessarily see the point in buying something like this if you just for the sake of buying it, if you're just not going to use the electric side of this. If you're just going to use it for the acoustic purposes, go and buy yourself a Cecilio CVN 300, because it's exactly the same as this. So I forget the price of that off the top of my head. But there's no point having something like this if you just want to use it for the acoustic version. You really want to be buying something like this if you actually want to go ahead and use the electric version of this. I think this is okay as an acoustic violin, but because it's got all the pickup and everything inside it, and all the plugs and all the amplification and all that kind of you know, whatnot, it is kind of, you are losing a little bit of sound from it. From the acoustic part, but you know, like I say, it's a hybrid, so it's kind of the best of both worlds. So this would suit a beginner, possibly an intermediate player as well, someone who just wants to step into the world of electric kind of acoustic violins and really just carry one violin around as opposed to two violins. So there we go. I hope you enjoyed that. I've got loads of other reviews that are going to be in the links directly underneath and everything, and if you want to buy this as well, I'll put that in the description link underneath down below the video, so go and check that out, and thanks very much for watching.